Green viewers, this is Planet Earth, our loving home. Currently, the global economy is highly unstable. The economies of many nations are struggling enormously, with the US experiencing its worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Citizens from developing and developed countries are strongly calling on their respective government leaders to urgently help them obtain jobs as well as feed, clothe, and house their families. Even the world's wealthiest nations are facing financial challenges in terms of helping the growing numbers of people who need social assistance. These current fiscal realities are making it much harder for governments to make progress in addressing crucial global environmental threats such as climate change. The health of our planet is so dire, some scientists are predicting an enormous world population decline within this century, or even the extinction of the human race. With the consequences of inaction so great, these environmental challenges must be addressed now in spite of budgetary constraints. Fortunately, there is hope. On today's program, we will examine an affordable approach to mitigating the planet's most pressing ecological hazards. For approximately the past 10,000 years, known as the Holocene era, the climate has been relatively stable, and Earth's natural regulatory systems have provided ideal conditions for human and animal life to flourish. But we have now entered a new period, referred to as the Anthropocene era, in which deleterious human activities are severely damaging these very same systems necessary for life to continue on Earth. In 2009, a group of 28 globally recognized experts in environmental and Earth system science was assembled by the Stockholm Environment Institute in Sweden. The group identified 9 planetary life support systems that humans are pushing to the limit, or in some cases, surpassing. Urgent issues requiring immediate action include biodiversity loss, ocean acidification, ozone depletion in the stratosphere, freshwater scarcity, excess nitrogen production, harmful land use changes, climate change, black carbon in the atmosphere, and chemical pollution. The continued viability of these essential life support systems has dietary choice as a common denominator. A global switch to the organic vegan diet can quickly and effectively address all of these issues. Land in its natural state provides many ecosystem services, including the production of oxygen, regulation of the water cycle, and sequestration of carbon dioxide. Throughout history, unsustainable deforestation has been a major factor in the collapse of many great civilizations, including ancient Sumeria, Babylonia, and Assyria, as well as the Roman and Mayan empires. Historically, agriculture has been the largest driver of land use change, with livestock raising being the modern era's single most destructive activity. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that globally 30% of all land mass and 70% of all agricultural land is currently used for livestock production, either for grazing or to raise food for the animals. A 2010 United Nations Environment Program report estimates that the livestock industry is responsible for nearly 70% of the environmental problems attributed to land use change. Although most efforts to halt deforestation focus on stopping logging, the United Nations Global Forest Resource Assessment data shows that clearing forests to create grazing pastures and grow animal feed is responsible for 60 to 80% of all forest raising. Furthermore, deforestation itself exacerbates climate change by releasing approximately 20% of all annual human-induced CO2 emissions. Dietary change is the most important tool we have at our disposal for reversing this trend. Far more can be grown in a much smaller space if humans consume plant instead of animal foods. In a study examining the most green and efficient means of feeding the residents of the state of New York, USA, lead author Dr. Christian Peters concludes, a person following a low-fat vegetarian diet, for example, will need less than half, or 0.44 of an acre per person per year to produce their food. A high-fat diet with a lot of meat, on the other hand, needs 2.11 acres. A United Nations report, The Economics of Ecosystems and Biodiversity, estimates species loss and injury to ecosystems from human activity costs the world between $2 to $4.5 trillion annually, or about 7.5% of the value of the global gross domestic product, which is a measure of all goods and services produced worldwide. The situation is so severe we have entered what is being called the sixth great extinction event, with the current rate of biodiversity loss 1,000 to 10,000 times higher than the natural background extinction rate. In the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations 2006 report Livestock's Long Shadow, the link between large-scale species disappearance and the livestock industry was emphasized.
Indeed, the livestock sector may well be the leading player in the reduction of biodiversity, since it is the major driver of deforestation, as well as one of the leading drivers of land degradation, pollution, climate change, overfishing, sedimentation of coastal areas, and facilitation of invasions by alien species.
A paper by the Netherlands Environmental Assessment Agency evaluated the benefits of various policy tools for reversing declining biodiversity. Comparing 8 different policy options to reduce an assumed baseline 10% global biodiversity loss between 2000 and 2050, including protecting natural areas, managing forests better, and humanity adopting a meatless diet, the animal-free diet was found to best safeguard species survival out of all the possible choices. The 2 best solutions to end species extinction are the implementation of sustainable vegan organic farming practices globally and humanity embracing the plant-based diet, both of which will free up large amounts of land to be returned to their natural, life-sustaining states and end animal agriculture's massive consumption of resources. In 2009, the World Water Forum warned that the planet is in the midst of a water bubble due to unsustainable use, and that the consequences would be far graver than the current global financial crisis. The forum also warned that within the next 20 years, over 50% of the world's population will face water shortages, leading to millions of deaths and increasing conflicts over dwindling resources. There are multiple causes for water scarcity, including the enormous water footprint of animal products, pollution of freshwater sources by livestock operations and factories, and accelerating climate change, which causes more droughts. The quickest and most effective way to improve water security is changing the agriculture industry, as currently 70% of all freshwater resources are allocated to this sector globally. Turning livestock farmers into vegan organic growers would transform the situation dramatically for the better. Research has repeatedly demonstrated that the most water-efficient diet is a plant-based diet. The Twente Water Center in the Netherlands estimates it takes up to 6 times more water to grow a kilogram of animal protein as plant protein, and that producing beef consumes 20 times more water per calorie than grain or potatoes. In the Netherlands Environmental Assessment Agency report, Climate Benefits of Changing Diet, the authors conclude that a vegan diet would reduce the overall costs of addressing the consequences of climate change by over 80%. According to their calculations, the combined effects of halting deforestation and reforesting land currently used for livestock would reduce CO2 emissions from deforestation, while growing trees would capture the CO2 already in the atmosphere and sequester it. The US-based Rodale Institute estimates that if all of the world's tillable land were converted to organic farmland, the soil would absorb and store approximately 40% of current CO2 emissions. The United Nations Environment Programme has called increasing ocean acidification a real threat to the future viability of marine ecosystems. The combination of lowering CO2 emissions through conversion to vegan organic farming, decreasing deforestation, and capturing carbon already in the atmosphere would help protect our seas by lessening acidification, which is caused by excessive amounts of CO2 being sequestered in them. Industrial agriculture uses tremendous amounts of nitrogen-based fertilizers, and livestock operations generate huge quantities of animal manure which is full of nitrogen. This excess nitrogen pollutes drinking water supplies, destroys biodiversity, and produces dead zones in oceans. The U.S. National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration has concluded that nitrous oxide is the main cause of the growth in the ozone hole over Antarctica. The primary sources of nitrous oxide are nitrogen-based fertilizers and animal manure. Again, Global adoption of the plant-based diet would mean the end of the volumes of manure produced annually, and the planet's embracing of vegan organic farming would spell the end of industrial fertilizer usage. There is a growing recognition in the climate science community that halting climate change by focusing exclusively on lowering carbon dioxide emission levels will not be enough to keep global warming at or below 2 degrees Celsius, a goal originally agreed upon at the 2009 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen, Denmark. Geophysical sciences professor David Archer of University of Chicago, USA, points out that relying on CO2 reductions alone to stop climate change is insufficient because CO2 from fossil fuels and other sources can continue to remain in the atmosphere, heating the planet for thousands of years. A 2011 report issued by the United Nations Environment Programme and the World Meteorological Organization concludes that the combined effect of reducing levels of methane, ground-level ozone, and black carbon is about equal to the warming effect of CO2. However, in contrast to carbon dioxide, all of these are short-lived climate forcers, meaning they dissipate from the atmosphere much more quickly than CO2. Methane is dispersed from the air in about a decade's time, black carbon within weeks, and ozone within hours. An organic vegan diet is the best solution to halt climate change, because livestock are the single largest source of human-caused methane, and methane is a building block to ozone. Forest and savanna burning, the #1 source of black carbon globally, is largely driven by livestock raising. Thus, ending livestock production will lead to huge declines in emissions of these short-lived climate forcers. Some have suggested mitigating methane emissions through a technology called methane capture. However, this supposed solution is fundamentally flawed. Supreme Master Ching Hai commented on this technology during a press conference held in Cancun, Mexico in December 2010.
And when we say we raise the animals organically or capture methane from manure to reduce emissions, these methods also falls exceedingly short of expectation. Even in the case of capturing methane from animal manures, 3 times that amount is still being released from the livestock digestive process. Plus, this technique cannot be considered clean energy at all, when the same factory farm is destroying the environment in a dozen other ways.
We would like to close by recognizing that for individuals, choosing an organic plant-based lifestyle over a diet centered on meat, dairy, and eggs is the single most impactful action anyone can take to improve the health of our planet's vital life support systems. For governments, redirecting all current subsidies for animal product producers to vegan organic farmers is a budget-neutral way to significantly reverse the most pressing environmental challenges of our time. Thank you for joining us for Planet Earth, Our Loving Home, here on Supreme Master Television. May we forever respect and honor our planetary abode.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/PE.
Harming or killing animal co-inhabitants is like destroying our own protective power. Helping or saving animal co-inhabitants is like enforcing our safety fortress. Supreme Master Ching Hai.
Climate change is one of the key factors that are causing not only flooding but other forms of disasters.
Due to the climate change, we are experiencing heavy rain. That intensity has gone up. Earlier the rainfall what we got within 1 week, now we are getting in the 1 or 2 days.
Beneficent viewers, this is Planet Earth, our loving home. This week, we'll discuss the horrific and often fatal effects of natural disasters caused by climate change. Highly dangerous storms, floods, wildfires, heat waves, droughts, extreme cold spells, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are taking place with increasing frequency and intensity across the globe. The number of victims and the steep economic losses are climbing. According to Munich Re, a reinsurer or a company that insures insurance firms, during the first half of 2011, 350 disastrous natural events occurred around the world, claiming approximately 20,000 lives and costing $265 billion US. This dollar figure is the highest ever recorded in a year in terms of property damage, and 2011 has not yet ended. The following are just some of the catastrophes that have occurred thus far. Climate change is believed to have aggravated an extreme violent tornado outbreak in the United States that occurred between April 25th and 28th, 2011. During this period, an unprecedented 336 twisters tore through midwestern, southern and northeastern states, as well as southern Ontario, Canada, causing approximately 350 deaths. The estimated damage came close to $10 billion US. At the epicenter of the disasters was the city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, USA, where a tornado's winds were measured at over 418 kilometers an hour.
You know, I ran the house and I told my brother and his girlfriend, and I told her to get her dog, and we all ran the bathroom and got in the tub, and we all was just sitting there just praying. And by the time I knew it, tore everything up, and everything was just damaged, destroyed, and it was terrifying, man. I don't think I know, I'm happy to be alive, you know, I'm blessed.
The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has noted that elevated ocean temperatures resulting from a hotter planet have very serious consequences. Their fourth assessment report states, "It is likely that future tropical cyclones, that is typhoons and hurricanes, will become more intense, with larger peak wind speeds and more heavy precipitation associated with ongoing increases of tropical sea surface temperatures." In February 2011, Cyclone Yasi, a Category 5 or the most powerful cyclone on the Australian region tropical cyclone intensity scale, devastated parts of Queensland, Australia, forcing thousands to be evacuated as fierce winds and floodwaters caused extensive damage to buildings and homes.
It was the worst cyclone we've ever seen. Our entire house, our property, our entire possessions all got taken in 1 minute when the cyclone took the roof off the house.
Human-induced global warming is also resulting in forceful rains and deadly flooding. Respected University of Victoria, Canada climatologist Dr. Andrew Weaver has stated, "We should continue to expect increased flooding associated with increased extreme precipitation because of increasing atmospheric greenhouse gas, and we have no one to blame but ourselves." According to statistics from the Centre for Research on the Epidemiology of Disasters, hydrological calamities in 2010 were by far the most frequent in recorded history, being responsible for 56.1% of the year's total disaster events. The number of victims was nearly 190 million, almost double the yearly average for the last decade. In December 2010 and early 2011, the eastern states of Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and northern Tasmania, experienced flooding brought on by the La Niña effect, but with increased severity due to warmer ocean temperatures. In total, 35 people perished and 200,000 were severely affected. The economic damage was estimated at up to $31 billion.
We'd been through numerous floods already, and that day the water was about half a metre on the ground, and next thing my mum said, "What's that?" She was looking out the kitchen window. We're looking and looking, we didn't know what it was, and then when you realise what it was, I just said, "Look, everybody in the lounge room now." I just thought we were all going to die. The water kept coming and coming, it hit our place hard, all the debris, and just built up around the house, and the flood hit us, and the tsunami, and it came up and up and up, and we just thought we were going to get washed away.
In January 2011, floods combined with landslides and mudslides ravaged Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the worst cataclysm of its kind in the nation's history. The catastrophe took the lives of over 900 people. The cost of rebuilding roads, homes and infrastructure is estimated to be $1.2 billion.
A enchente foi muito repentina. Para quem não conhece, em torno de 12 horas o rio subiu 5 metros. Então ele desabriga as famílias muito rapidamente. Muitas perdem seus pertences, que não dá tempo de tirar todas. Os móveis estragam, perdem objetos, as casas ficam deterioradas. São colégios que a gente coloca as famílias desabrigadas, ginásios municipais. Nós temos que ter veículos para retirar as pessoas. Depois temos que ter canoas também, que tem hora que o veículo não dá mais e a pessoa é retirada de canoa.
On the world's other continents, floods have also been disturbingly commonplace.
วันนี้น้ำมันมากกว่าทุกปีมันจะเกี่ยวกับภาวะโลกร้อนลึกมากเรื่องน้ำกินน้ำใช้เพราะน้ำประปาก็ขาดไฟฟ้าก็ดับ
从来没有淹过，700年都没淹过。好多东西你放高一点的话，谁知道一下子涌来的话都没办法，停不了了。
It was very devastating, as you could see on the television pictures. From the northern region, the entire central Gonja district was submerged. If you come to the southern area, the Volta region, it was very devastating. Swedru, Agona, Swedru, a lot of structured bridges were washed away. Over 2,000 people were affected.
Uncontrollable wildfires are a frightening phenomenon on the rise. In May 2011, raging fires burned approximately 2,200 square kilometres of forests in Arizona, USA. Recorded as being the largest blaze in the state's history, it demolished hundreds of homes and caused $109 million in damage. In Russia, following 2010's unprecedented forest fire outbreaks, more severe havoc struck the nation. At the end of July 2011, fires had burned in more than 16,000 locations across Russia, with a total of 10,600 square kilometres of land charred. The most harmful fires struck the territories of Yakutia, Komi, Karelia, Khabarovsk, Krasnoyarsk, as well as the Vologda and Arkhangelsk regions. Climate change expert Dr. Richard Sager, a research professor at Columbia University, USA, has noted the term global warming does not do justice to the climate changes the world will experience in coming decades. Some of the worst disruptions we face will involve water, not just temperature. Drought, or the prolonged lack of precipitation, leads to substantial agricultural losses, huge shortages of drinking water and famine. More than 12 million residents of Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia are currently suffering enormously from famine due to severe drought. This figure has risen 38% since March 2011. In addition, drought is causing substantial property loss through soil subsidence or sinking land, particularly in Europe. Unbalanced rainfall and evaporation change soil moisture, making it swell and shrink repeatedly, leading to destructive collapse. In France alone, subsistence-related damage has increased by 50% over the last 20 years, costing the affected regions an average of €340 million annually. These events will inevitably grow in frequency due to an increasingly hot planet. Computer modelling done by US government researchers demonstrated that climate change will lead to longer and more extreme cold spells at the end of the century. However, the impact of unnaturally frigid temperatures can be seen right now. One such event affected the tropical nation of Bangladesh in early January 2011, resulting in at least 11 fatalities due to the abnormally chilly conditions. Travel and other daily activities were disrupted, and children and the elderly particularly suffered due to the adverse weather.
আমরা এখানে হিমালয় পাদদেশে আমাদের এই নাগেশ্বরী উপজেলা তথা কুড়িগ্রাম জেলার আমরা অবস্থিত। এখানে শীতের প্রভাবটা অত্যন্ত বেশি। আমাদের এখানে নিম্নশ্রেণীর যাকে পুয়ার বলা হয়, এই নিম্নশ্রেণীর রোগগুলো এই শীতের সময় অনেক সময় দেখা যায় একটি মাত্র কাঁথা দিয়ে জীবনযাপন তাদের করতে হয়। কিন্তু আমরা এখানে যে আমরা কম্বল বিতরণ করলাম, অত্যন্ত যারা তোমার এই শীতের মধ্যে যুদ্ধ করে যাদের জীবনযাপন করতে হতো।
The rapid melting of glaciers and ice sheets due to global warming has a rebound effect on the Earth's crust, meaning the crust rises to its original position, provoking earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. In March 2011, a massive 9.0 magnitude earthquake centred off the northeastern coast of Japan and accompanying tsunami left approximately 15,600 dead, 5,700 injured, and close to 6,000 missing. The ruinous temblor was the world's fourth strongest since 1900.
で、たちまちですね、なんて言うんでしょう、電線とか家とかいろんなものが一気に持ち去られていく時にですね、見た感じもすごかったんですけれども、音がなんていう表現したらいいかわからない音がバリバリでもメリメリでもいろんなすごい音が混ざり合った音がこの辺りを全部包むような形でいろんな意味で、味わったことのない恐怖感というのを味わいました。
On February 22nd, 2011, New Zealand's second most populous city, Christchurch, was rocked by the most destructive of the more than 7,400 aftershocks that followed the 7.1 magnitude earthquake that struck the region in September 2010. The February event, which was a 6.3 magnitude quake, sent people running in panic and caused a total of 181 deaths.
This whole community over here still doesn't have fresh clean water, sewage or any power. So as you can appreciate, cooking and the basic needs are very essential.
On June 13th, 2011, another aftershock of magnitude 6.3 hit the city, causing additional damage. Mount Bulusan in Sorsogon province, the Philippines, erupted in February 2011, ejecting a plume of ash up to 2 kilometres high and forcing over 3,600 families to be evacuated from their homes in an effort to ensure their safety.
The effects of this asphalt ejection to the livelihood of the people and the affected communities is too great. How they could maintain their subsistence, since their source of living is almost destroyed by these ashes. Their source of drinking water, of course, is also affected.
The natural disasters we've examined today are just a fraction of the events that have occurred thus far in 2011. Is there anything that can be done about the Earth's distress signals? Yes. We can take steps now to minimise and even eliminate future calamities. Following an organic plant-based diet is the simplest and quickest way to stop the effects of climate change. A wholesale worldwide adoption of this lifestyle would produce a highly beneficial cooling effect on Earth and end the enormous levels of methane and other toxic greenhouse gases being produced by the environmentally destructive animal product industries, restoring balance to our planetary home. Eco-conscious viewers, thank you for joining us on today's program. May the guidance of Providence always be with every being.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/PE